Good morning, everybody. Sam and I are here with you. We are missing Alex Fries, who is traveling on business and pleasure, I think. And today, whoa, hold on a second. There we go, Sam. See, of course, now Alex is going to laugh at us. He goofed up the technology. Because we goofed up the podcasting technology. Also, we should probably point the microphone toward us rather than away. And you usually don't see this, but we put it out there so Alex would see it.
That make sure that he knows we're using it.
Yeah, we're using it, correct, yeah. So there's usually a podcast recording going in the background, and some people have asked us about that. So that is with the Zoom. This is a Zoom, I don't know the model number. I think it's a 600. Okay, so this is bad too. So Tucker's down there with a Cabot
Vermont
extra sharp cheddar wrapper, which had a big chunk of cheddar cheese in it. So I'm
which is now gone.
I'm going to say things are going bad there. So today's show, by the way, is called More Juice from the Squeeze. So just getting more out of everything that you do. And we want to talk about that in a couple of particular areas. Oh, by the way, I'm going to share this just again so that we don't get totally chastised by Alex. So I'm going to see if I could share this. But more juice from the squeeze is how can we do fewer things, less strenuously, less frenetically, less stress, and still get more of what we're looking for.
Right.
So, of course, the particular juice isn't the same for everybody.
Right.
The combination of juice, like we're going to talk about how to get more juice from the squeeze for everything from charity to business and marketing to getting more out of your weekends, all these sorts of things. How you balance that and what mixture you put together is going to be totally up to you. And if there are particular things that you want to have on the next, we have another show coming up at some point called Less is More, which will have a similar theme to it. And anything that you want us to cover there, just make sure to let us know. You can let us know in the comments. So we're going to take a quick break here while I share this over on the Dave Fries page. And thank you for everybody for joining us and liking and loving it. See how this looks flawless when Alex is here, like in the background, but it doesn't look so flawless here.
That goes to the theme of today's episode: is you need the right assets in place
and to be doing what you do well. Yeah. And we would get no disagreement from Alex on that. Okay, here we go. In top form, was that you or Alex that tagged me?
That was me today, I think.
Okay, so I'm still not seeing this one. I'm just seeing everything else, but we'll figure it out. Live now. You were able to share it.
I did, yeah.
So sad. So sad what's happening.
You're going to be in trouble.
It really is just, the chastising is going to last a while. So
it's going to be intense.
So I go over to in top form, which is where we are, by the way. And remember, if you're seeing us and you like it, oh, here we go. Yay. So share, I'm going to share it now.
Okay.
So now we're going to get, oh boy. I'm going to like it as in top form, which also drives Alex crazy while we're at it.
And then kicked you out.
We'll get to the topic.
All right.
So we're having a good time. Hopefully you are too. We actually should watch. Oh, you've got it up, so we can see.
I'm gonna try to keep an eye on the comments for you guys. So if you have any questions, just post them below. We'll get back to you if we can.
So we're going to share our strategies, and Alex, if he's watching, will leap in and sort of share in the comments too, and we can mention them. Strategies for, and you guys comment if you want anything in particular. We'll share how we get more out of it. By the way, did you see on the title, Sam, that I put a bumper sticker on there that says, "Yeah, baby"?
I did see that.
Because that is part of my strategy, is saying things that amuse me in a way that's sort of empowering with the tonality. Like, so I'm not actually a big "yeah, baby" guy, But it is something that when you say it is typically said.
Well, say that, or you have a great ability of saying things to make sure you have the person's attention, right? So
I do have that.
So you called me yesterday and you started talking, and honestly, I wasn't really listening yet.
But
then you said that, and then I paused. I was like, wait a minute, what did you just say?
You actually said that. So I said, Sam, I think we're going to call the show Yeah Baby. I really had More Juice from the Squeeze in mind.
Right.
And you're, to be fair, your daughter was there. A lot was, like, there was a ton going on.
Right.
But you literally, when I said, I'm going to call it Yeah Baby, you stopped and said, wait, what?
Right.
Because that is disturbing.
So what happened there? Why did I do that?
Yeah, so there's a pattern interrupt going on there. And we had a mutual friend who both of us mentored for a while. Mm-hmm. And frequently, so you have to be careful with this. Interrupting people's patterns sometimes takes, depending on how deep they are in their hypnosis at the time,
right.
sometimes takes more outrageousness, right?
Right.
So this guy sort of got what we were doing when we would do that, but he would be arrested or handcuffed. Mm-hmm. And then say, like, well, I don't understand what went wrong. I just said to myself when the police stopped me, what would Dave Freeze say here? Mm. Now, I can do it because I've got the tonality right. Like, people know when I say outrageous things that generally speaking, it's coming from a place of love and concern or humor or something to which they attribute a positive emotion. This particular guy who we were mentoring, he didn't get that piece of it. So he would just say the words that would snap somebody out of it with a tone of voice that meant like contempt or I'm not going to listen to you.
Right.
When you're talking to the police, then they frequently smash your face. We're not talking police brutality, but he did have like a little brush mark.
Little mark. Yeah.
But I believe he deserved it and had to be subdued.
I think in that incident,
he did.
Definitely.
Yeah, he had to be subdued.
Yeah.
So we're just saying here, breaking people out of their like day-to-day mindset, the pressures of what they're under, it has to be calibrated. So you have to give, like, I didn't use profanity or ratchet it up where I said something crazy. I'll give you an example. I was in a conversation the other day where politics came up between these two people, and one person called the other person a racist. Now, and that went fast.
Right.
And clearly these two people know and like one another, and this person was not a racist, and they weren't saying anything that was racist. It was just like one of those things that people go to now.
Right.
So my response to that, because they were deep into it already, was to put my hand on that guy's shoulder and to say, oh, well, are you a pedophile? That's going nuclear.
Yeah, that's going.
But that's the sort of, that I had to break through. Yeah,
yeah.
And he said, what do you mean? Why are you saying, what? So he's out of it now,
right.
As is the other guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you just called him a racist, and I'm no dog in this hunt, and I didn't hear any, racism there, and I sort of know him as a person that cares about all people.
Did you see that recent Scott Adams blog about how people are actually essentially hallucinating what they're hearing?
Yes,
and
that's so true. I see that all the time.
And I think that's probably a factor into what happened in that conversation where that person wasn't throwing that as a bomb. He really believed it.
Yeah.
In that interaction, because people are at such a level right now
of emotional rawness.
Yeah.
But then they go into these hypnotic loops of what they've decided they need to say. Like, I think this person has decided, like, I need to combat what I perceive as being these evils in society, right? So he goes right into like nuclear combat mode, and I'm more of a, let's see if we can in fact negotiate this. Here's another thing I think goes on there, and this all goes to get more juice from the squeeze.
That's
because when you can step back and disassociate a little bit from that and see things more clearly for what's really going on, rather than going into a pre-described loop that you've rehearsed over and over again, which is what most of us do all the time, by the way. I asked Josh once, who's a pretty self-aware kid, like, how long do you think out of every day, like, let's say you're awake for 14 hours, how long are you in charge and how long is the robot in charge? Meaning that piece that just eats and drinks and does stuff without really conscious awareness.
Right.
And Josh said, I think probably 50-50.
Wow.
But I think he was wrong. I think for most of us, even though even those of us who work on being conscious and aware,
Well, think about it. If you're getting, the recommended 8 hours, there's 33% right there.
Where you're
gone.
Yep, out of it. And so let's take a look at the rest of it. I think the robot's in charge for most people about 97% of the time.
I agree.
And if we're lucky, we get a little bit of edge, so we get more out of life because we're consciously there. You posted from the gym the other day an awesome shot of a kid's class.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of something that we used to say to the kids, and the kids were at all ages, but this sort of got through to them at a unconscious level in some kids, and it broke through at a conscious level for other kids. But I used to say, breathing is now. Like if you're worried about something, like regret, I don't know that I would have said it this way to kids.
Yeah.
That's thinking about the past. If you're worried about something, you're anxious about something that hasn't happened, you're worried about the future. But if you're thinking about your breathing, you're here and now. There's no way that you can't be. What's interesting about breathing, by the way, is if you're thinking about it, you're here and now. But if you forget to think about it, it still works.
Yeah.
It goes on its own. It's one of those weird things that's in both the conscious and conscious system. So here's a quick one to get more out of everything, is to be able, this may sound weird, get more out of it by disassociating. Right. Are you really there? No, but then once you take a look at things, then you go back to breath and you're in the moment again. But you're in the moment having seen it from kind of a higher position. Right. One of the exercises we used to do with people when we were working with like interrogators and negotiators is we'd have them imagine playing all the roles in a conversation. So they'd imagine themselves like on your side of it, my side of it, and from watching it from a third position, kind of up above or another person. So first we'd have them do it where there'd be 3 of them, and you'd only have to play 1 role, so it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Then we'd have them do it where they imagined every role. This helps people, and here's another way to get more juice from the squeeze every day in everything you do, is don't leap to this pre-programmed thing that you're going to think and say and do.
Right.
But rather, pause for a second and say, here's an idea I agree with. Here's somebody said this thing, I disagree with it. But a lot of times, when we disagree with it or say that can't be true, or I've tried that before, it doesn't work, that's our unconscious mind trying to keep us in homeostasis, and it's easier not to think about it. Let's try to say, hey, could there be elements of this thing that I believe that are true and some that are not? And could that be true of this as well? And that makes your life a little tiny bit more difficult because you have to think about it. But then once you develop that skill, oh man, it becomes powerful.
Well, I think with disagreements too is that idea of role-playing the different people around the table, so to speak, is anybody that's disagreeing with you, they're not disagreeing because they think they're wrong.
Right.
They think they're right as you think you're right.
Right.
So it's a matter of kind of trying to see it from their side and what in their life, what in their experience has shaped them to believe that to be true, and compare that to what in your life has shaped your beliefs to be true. And then you can take a step back and say, okay, let's see where we can kind of find some common ground.
And that doesn't mean that you give up your belief in what you're talking about. A couple of things I want to go back to. Scott Adams. So some people may have had this reaction when you talked about Scott Adams, and I agreed immediately that was an interesting post.
Yeah.
Oh, well, didn't Scott Adams back Trump, and isn't he therefore, like an evil guy? So first of all, as far as I can tell from everything Scott Adams has said, he's not a Trump supporter.
Again, if you followed him
all along,
he never supported Trump. He just said he thought Trump would win.
And he said it
very early. Why.
Correct. And he kind of explained what Trump was doing, intentionally or consciously or not, and why it would work. So if you immediately recoiled at the mention of Scott Adams' name, this is a perfect example of where there may be things lurking in what Scott Adams says it does that could be useful and beneficial to you, and maybe really useful and beneficial. So suspend your disbelief for just a moment and go and check out some of what Scott Adams writes, and understand that if you, so I saw a Trump bumper sticker before the election, and this is sort of where I really started to think that Trump might win this thing, because I was voting for a third party candidate. I was not a Hillary or Trump supporter. But my question was always, what will my vote for a third party candidate do?
Right.
And the sort of the assumption was that Hillary was going to win, so that and that she was strong, so that a vote for a third-party candidate was probably, you know, going to be more beneficial to her.
Right.
But I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Vote Trump. Nobody has to know." And so what I'm saying, which was ingenious, by the way, given what was going on.
Right.
And what I'm trying to say is, go read some stuff by Scott Adams.
Yeah.
Nobody's got to know. And if you're really worried that somebody might be keeping track of your IP address, then use a virtual personal network.
Somebody is.
Do you use a VPN, by the way? Because this is on my list of things.
I do not.
So I don't, and of those of you who are watching, I don't as an ordinary practice.
Right.
But when I travel, or when so this is more juice from the squeeze, or when I'm in a place where you could hit a fake network, I use the VPN. So for example, be careful, because if you're at Starbucks, you see Starbucks 1 and Starbucks 2, there's probably some, and listen, I don't want to be anti-hipster here, but there's probably some guy wearing a knit cap with a big beard who's about to steal your stuff. At one of those tables, having like a free latte that he got on somebody else's card. So the way this works is a lot of scamming goes on by setting up a network that you log on to, thinking you're logging on to Starbucks network, and it's not, and they steal all your stuff. But also, you may wish to periodically investigate something, look into something where, like if you're at a hotel, that is not private or personal.
Right.
So don't leap to conclusions. I'm not talking about porn here.
Right.
But if there's some, I mean, I think everybody has things that they want to look at or understand that maybe they don't want to share with everybody, that they're thinking about that or working through that. So VPN is a solution to that, and it's especially useful if you're just going to be using passwords and things like that when you're traveling. So more juice for the squeeze in security is these are very simple networks to download. You just download them as an app. And yes, probably there are some fake ones out there where people are spying on it. So we may publish a list here in the show notes, because I have some friends who, let's just say, they would know which ones to use or not, and then we'll ask them which ones they use, and we'll put it up for you. So, you know, that was the first thing, was the Scott Adams thing that I just wanted to clear up, because that falls into this category where people may have a negative reaction. It's not like we're telling you to go follow Milo Yiannopoulos on Twitter, which I think he's been banned from.
Yes, yes.
I actually, the first time I saw Milo Yiannopoulos on Twitter making like outrageous comments, I immediately called like the most flamboyantly liberal friends that I knew, who like sort of prided themselves on constantly announcing things that they, you know, found offensive. And it was immediately told never to mention that name to anybody again, like that I should.
Well, you know, not getting into the politics of the thing, but he is an agitator.
Yeah.
Right? And he's precipitated his success by doing exactly that, right? So if we're talking about getting more juice out of the squeeze, and it has to be something that you're willing to do, right? Is he's alienated 80-90% of the population, maybe.
Yep, probably.
But that sliver that he hasn't is highly engaged with him.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's, you know, you don't necessarily want to do it the way he did.
Yes, that's where I go with this.
But there is something there to, you know, being a disruptor, being an agitator, and getting, you know, that sliver of your audience or population to be highly engaged.
Passionately engaged with you.
Yeah.
So here's where we're going with this. This is not a plug for Milo Yiannopoulos.
Correct.
Here's where we're going. Is that it doesn't take too many people in your network who are engaging with you and super excited. By the way, do we have anybody engaging with us?
There's Wyman.
Hey, Dr. Wyman, thanks for joining us. Is it Dave or Edward? Is it
Dave.
lawyer or doctor? Okay.
Doctor.
So, Dave, welcome and thank you. And jump in with any kind of comments or questions that you have. It doesn't take too many people to be passionately engaging with you to really build a business or a following, and to, you know, like there is that piece, 1,000 Raving Fans, I think it's called, which if you haven't read it, go read it. It really discusses this topic we're on. But you're not going to get that sort of foundation of 100 or 1,000 raving fans by trying to make everybody happy.
Right.
Just like selling a product or a service that you think you're marketing to everybody, it's really hard to market it to anybody at all.
Right.
So it's okay, if this is in your personality, to be a disruptor. Just find the place where you're okay, willing to take the heat for what it is that you do, and you're going to find much more loyal followers that are engaged with you. So, again, we took the dangerous step of making politics the analogy here.
Yes.
But with all products and services, there are people that care and there are people that don't care about what it is, and you're trying to find the ones that care. So saying things that are a little provocative. Here's the other thing. Robin said this the other day. The silver lining in all of this is that there's no doubt it's not always going well because of that conversation we started with where people just attack one another right away. But this situation in America is forcing people to think about institutions and how Congress works and was it working right before? And they're thinking about things they've never thought about before.
Right.
So that's a silver lining. And if we could just combine that with a little, more civil engagement.
Manners.
Yeah. And so in business, all we're saying is you should be doing marketing that really appeals probably to a narrow segment and gets them super excited. And just understand that you're going to alienate and piss some people off.
And your personal life. So
Yes.
there are institutions in your life, whatever they may be, is like how you operate on a daily basis, how you treat yourself, how you treat your relationships. And sometimes you need something from the outside, some sort of agitation to challenge the institutions you've created for yourself. Because most of us, once we reach adulthood, whatever that is, don't really change, right?
We get into these patterns, these habits.
And they work for us, but they might not be optimized.
So if you want more on this, just Google Dave Freeze and Perry Marshall, or Dave Freeze, Perry Marshall, and homeostasis. I was at Perry's house one time. There's a small group of people there, and I was talking about how, from an evolutionary biological standpoint, we don't want to leave the cave once we get in it. So once you develop these patterns and these habits and these institutions in your personal and business life, very, 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 very much harder to change than you think it is.
Right.
They're way more ingrained and they're below conscious awareness. That's what makes life easy. But I encourage you to listen to that because it's going to get you thinking about how and why you might need to challenge those things and to do something different. But there's really good evolutionary biological reasons why we love homeostasis. There's also, for those mad men out there and mad women who are fans of Wim Hof, there's a kind of physiological piece to this too. We now live in a world where we rarely stray much outside of 71 to 72 degrees.
Right.
Because we like our houses heated and our air conditioning on. And what's happened is we're not built from an evolutionary biological standpoint for that. We're built to deal with rapid changes in temperature. And our bodies kind of need that.
Right.
And we need, so you can have an elite athlete who is incapable now of sort of when I get cold, this is not going to be a pretty picture for some of you, but we're going to have to talk about this. So I did, before my workout, I did a half-hour workout outside. None of my neighbors can see. Just for those of you who are worried about the gentle snowflakes of my neighbors. I'm just wearing workout shorts, nothing else.
Yeah.
And there's snow on the ground and it's under 30 degrees for a half an hour. And and then I did a sauna. So I'm at like 138 degrees for half an hour. So what's that all about? Well, it gets us out of this homeostasis that as humans we're not actually really used to.
Right.
We're used to changing altitude, climbing mountains, getting super cold, and our bodies can deal with it. And so the mantra that I use to be able to take super cold showers and to work out in the snow in bare feet, and much to Robin's heart, because she thought maybe a neighbor would see it, like no shirt. She would not, Robin, you would not go with my plan to for me to walk Tucker shirtless this morning and Robin just in the sports bra.
Didn't happen.
No, I said, no, I'm pretty sure I heard you say you would do that. She said, no, that was her voice, but just a version of it, like a virtual version of it in my head. And apparently there are medications that can help with this.
I often hallucinate my wife's voice too.
I do, and for good most of the time.
And it probably keeps us out of a lot of
It
trouble.
does. Yeah, because often it's saying no, no, listen to me, no. Hello, Tucker. Tucker's getting back. For a couple of shows, Tucker sort of took off and didn't really, but now he's playing a more active role.
Yeah.
He's sort of taking Alex's seat.
There you go.
There you go, Tucker. One thing, an example of an exercise that I do to get more juice from the squeeze is, but it went terribly awry the other day, is I like to turn on shows that I've seen or speakers or something like that, or listen to a podcast where I'm not likely to agree. This doesn't necessarily mean politically. This could mean with science or nutrition. And I often find that I'm agitated by that.
Right.
And I often find, by the way, when I'm most agitated, that's when I should most listen.
Right.
But I also find that I've been convinced by other people's way of thinking about something to change my mind. And at least it sort of provokes my thinking faculty and exercise a little bit. So I see Bill Maher, who I've watched for years, but don't usually agree with politically.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like a big government guy. I believe kind of in independence. I get it that government provides foundational sort of safety net services. I'm okay with that. I pay my taxes. I want to. So, but Bill Maher has a little different view than me generally. So I see Bill Maher's on CNN, so I turn Bill Maher on. I'm like doing this in a traditional way. I'm watching it on a TV without an iPad and an iPhone also going at the same time. So he actually has my undivided attention. And I figure he's going to provoke me into thinking about some of these things that are going on, right? Oh no. I watched a half an hour of Bill Maher where I totally agreed with everything that he said.
Wow.
Utterly and completely. Which had him saying, by the way, that what was going on at universities where people were trying to shut down opposing viewpoints and requiring safe space, he was basically blaming that on super bad parenting.
Okay.
And I kind of agree with everything that he said, because he was saying this is the result of parents not, this is my paraphrasing, this is how I talk about it, not letting their kids fall down on the grass.
Right.
Like, I get it, a parent doesn't want a kid to crash their head, so maybe you should make them wear a helmet when they're using a skateboard.
Sure.
But it's okay to fall down on the grass. It teaches you all, like, in martial arts, we spend a lot of time learning how to fall.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I was doing an exercise the other day where I've lost the knack of that, so I got to get back into that. But he was saying, like, people are motivated by a good thing. They want their kids to be sensitive and caring and compassionate.
Right.
But it ends up having gone too far, where everybody's seeking a safe space. So, but here's my point. I happen to agree with him, so it didn't have the desired effect. But I seek out books and newspapers and magazines, which I guess dates me too, because I like the analog version.
Sure.
And speakers and television shows and podcasts, which will deliberately provoke me. And which will get me thinking about whether I'm really right or not. And sometimes I change my mind. So that's another exercise to help you get more, juice from the squeeze. Sam has convinced me that having 12 books stacked up that I show you is too much. So I'll show you. I brought 3, which I think is still too much, right?
No, I think 3 is good.
It's the upper limit.
It's okay.
Now, I'm going to need help because I love this guy. I read everything he writes. He has a really awesome blog online about simplicity. So I've got 2 books by Leo.
I would say Babauta.
And I'm sure you're right.
It could be.
I forget whether it was you or I that said me deferring to you on this pronunciation might be perceived as racism.
No, it's not racism. Indians are known for having harder names.
Exactly. And like,
except mine.
There's
2 syllables.
Somnath, Sikdar. See? Even, pasty Celt gets that right. But Leo Babauta. See how I got that? No rehearsal.
Yeah.
So, Leo Babauta, which we're assuming is the correct pronunciation, but Leo, you let us know. The Simple Guide to a Minimalist Life. Now look, we're not advocating that you go and give everything to charity and just wear Birkenstocks and a loincloth. But there may be areas of your life, like in your marketing, for example, or in some area of your life where you want to achieve more simplicity and see if that actually improves the quality of your life. And this guy's books are an incredibly good guide to that process. So The Simple Guide to a Minimalist Life and Zen to Done. So if you want, this is sort of on the business and the efficiency and the, picking more of what to do, like a theme of what we've been talking about. 2 really simple little books based, I'll bet, on his blog.
Yeah.
So here's a genius strategy. Blog about stuff as a way of clarifying your thought, and then take your blogs and turn them into really awesome books that empower people. So these 2 onto this theme of achieving simplicity, but also getting more juice from the squeeze. And that, like, there seems to be an apparent contradiction there. The Simple Guide to a Minimalist Life, to get more. But we're talking about more of what you want, not in a confusing way, but more of feeling how you want to feel, more of having what you want to have. And that may require, to make space, getting rid of some of the junk that's in your head or in your house or in your office or in your to-do list or in your marketing campaigns, things like that. But 2 really good ones.
And I think, minimalism sometimes gets conflated with like renunciation or asceticism, and that's not what it is. Really, it's being about intentional about the things that you do and the things that you have.
Yep.
And really focusing is like, I'm doing this thing, whatever it is it really improving my life in the, for my values, what they are?
Yeah.
And what I'm minimalist about will likely be different than what you're minimalist about, because we have a different preference curve and we're in different spots in our life.
So let's do an example that will be deliberately provocative again, and maybe cause tons of people to tune out to what I'm about to say, which is not the savviest way of presenting it, I'm just saying. But it does, if anybody's listening, it does provoke people to stay.
Right.
So I grew up in a family where I learned to hunt when I was really young, and I always had lots of guns. And in fact, my brother and I were reminiscing the other day in his waiting room of his office that when we were 12, when I was 12 and he was 10, we used to ride around Phoenixville on bikes with guns. And we were saying, like, God, think how the world has changed. We rode around the streets of a town at 12 and 10 with guns and ammunition. And nobody cared. And there was an old guy there who lived in the town when we were kids, and he goes, oh no, people cared. But you had guns. So maybe it's not as different as we thought. But here's where I'm going with this. For years, I had lots of guns and lots of different kinds of ammunition. And, cleaning kits for lots of guns.
Right.
Now I have one type of gun. Well, I have a long gun too. But I don't have 7 different kinds of handguns.
Right.
I have one. I have one type of ammunition. So that may sound like a weird place where I've been minimalist, but guess what? Now I have one cleaning kit, and one type of ammunition, and one type of gun, and I practice with it, and I get better and better and better with that. So that is a weird choice of how to transmit this message to you, but it is a truly effective one. I cleaned all kinds of junk out of my life, and I'm getting better with the one that I really liked. I'm kind of just built for this particular, for anybody watching that loves this sort of thing. It's a Glock 19, which is a small and kind of compact 9mm. So I'm just good with that. And guess what? I'm way better with it. So if we translate this to marketing or something like that, you get rid of the stuff, like if you're bad at face-to-face networking, maybe you want to do blogging. If you're really good at interviewing, maybe you want to do a podcast. And get rid of 12 things you're doing poorly or that aren't well suited for you, and really focus and become exceptional at this other thing. In a related topic, I've heard this recently, and it is kind of how I lived my life, and I think it's been true for me, is it's okay if you're an exceptional athlete, by the way, to shoot for becoming the next Michael Jordan, It's okay. But the chances of being Michael Jordan are pretty slim. You've got to just be in the very, very, very top piece. So what's a better strategy, even if you're going for that, is to get in the top 10 or 20% of 2 or 3 things. Because when you're good at 2 or 3 things in life and you can synergize those, they won't all be the same, and find ways to make them work together, you're gonna have a great life. Even if you don't become the next Michael Jordan. So again, getting more juice from the squeeze. This sounds contradictory. We're saying simple, but we're not really contradicting ourselves. We're saying just get really good at a couple of things that complement one another.
And understanding where where the curve starts to diminish in relative to effort, right? So getting to that 90% level, 80 or 90% level, will take X amount of effort to go from 0 to 80 or 0 to 90%. But then to get from 90 to 99 is going to take another whole X amount of effort. So there's diminishing amounts of return, whereas being at 90%, you're still better than 90% of the population.
And if you're better than 90% of the population at 2 or 3 things, now again, once you get over 3 things, you're trying to be better than 90% of the population at 4 and 5 and 6 things. You're
diminishing again.
Too many again. So interesting curve here. When I was a kid, I learned, like when I first started with martial arts, I learned a little bit of jiu-jitsu way back in the days, and aikido. And then I stopped, and then I had a job where I was basically taught we were taught very few moves that were designed to kill somebody.
Right.
Because this particular thing that I was doing, if you were involved in an altercation, you just had to get out of that altercation.
Right.
And I was super good at that because I'm not ridiculously fast, but I'm like ridiculously strong. And so there were a couple things I could do where, unless I was up against a massively overpowering opponent, I had an edge just by learning these couple of things. And what was good for me, and you'll remember this from like the earliest days of training, because Sam, as a kid, was already probably like a first or second dan when I started to train.
Yeah.
So he's already a pretty accomplished martial artist when I'm coming back from like years, like a hiatus from any kind of martial arts. And you remember, like, I just loved that I had 5 or 6 things. And in the system that we were training at the time, there were like 500 things.
Yeah.
And there was a particular order for every one of them. And I had like a photographic memory for written material.
Yeah.
So I used to be, like, I had professors that thought I was cheating because I would write a paragraph long quote with a cite to a page number for a book where I'd read it.
Right.
But that did not translate to like 37 moves in a form.
Right.
So those were always like agony for me.
Yeah.
So I have been through, the complexity and the minimalist there. But here's what I'll say, is that having done both produced something superior.
Right.
Like I have more than 6 things I can do, but I still have 4 or 5 that are the go-to.
Right.
But now I have a couple of others that are non-lethal, which is just always good to have.
Yeah.
By the way, on non-lethal, I just ordered some bear spray.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm sort of thinking about non-lethal lately. I don't know why. I don't know how that bug got in my head. But but this bear spray has a 20-foot range, and it totally engulfs the face from like 2 feet forward.
Wow.
It's really good stuff, and it's not terribly expensive.
Interesting.
I'm thinking about wearing it on a holster, just because it comes with a holster, like around town. Just like
see what people
think. Yeah. So that's another pattern interrupt. Okay. And we're going to do a whole show of how you interrupt people's patterns and how you I want to do a show on Persuasion, which is the new Cialdini book, where we'll actually give credit to Cialdini. I read a blog the other day from a guy who is selling marketing to law firms. I don't want to mention his name. He did piss me off here. He wasn't good at that either, by the way, which is something I'm good at, so I could kind of assess it.
Yeah.
So he's selling marketing to law firms, but he writes, here are the motivators of human behavior and persuasion, and then takes and writes a paragraph, or actually takes a sort of paragraph-long summary of each of Cialdini's from the original book, puts them in. So I'm thinking, like, well, why doesn't it say this is what Cialdini said at the start, or at least when we get to the end, are we going to mention Cialdini?
Yeah.
No. So here's the thing is, I think we need to pay more attention when we're out there doing this stuff and putting content together to giving credit where credit's due. Now look, did Cialdini come up with this? No, but if you're going to take his unique voice of how to talk about him, then give him credit for that. And I think it makes you sound smarter. Well, I think a lot of people think, I sound smarter if I present this idea as my own. you'll feel better about yourself if you present it as your take on what somebody else who has thought.
Right, and when you have a following, that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
They're not looking for the information. They're looking for my insight on the information.
Exactly. So let's do your segment, and then we'll come back to the books, because you have a really good segment for us on fitness again that fits into this whole theme that we're talking about.
Sure. So this week's fitness tip or fitness segment, this has been coming up a lot lately in our circle, so I did some research on it. And there's this idea of, how can you get the most bang for your buck in terms of time working out? So,
well, first of all, we know now it's take your shirt off.
Well, number one,
and
in the
go
cold
outside
in front of the neighbors. Done. That's it.
Segment super hack
over. Okay, seriously.
I was being serious.
Well, I know you were, but for them.
Okay.
This idea of high intensity exercise or interval training. So for years and years and years, the recommendation was to do something like jog or ride a bike for 40 to 60 minutes at a clip.
3 to 4 times.
4 to 5 times.
4 to 5 times
a week. So that's somewhere between 4 and 6 hours of your week that is gone just for exercising. And it turns out it's not terribly effective, except for getting better at running or riding a bike or whatever you're doing. So a lot of research is being done. It's like, can we condense the amount of time that we're spending on exercise? Now, what that requires...
Without losing effectiveness? Or
gaining some? Without losing effectiveness, definitely, and maybe gaining some effectiveness as well. So it's the idea of really increasing the intensity. So they did the research and basically said, if you can go, flat out or all out for 20 seconds, 3 times, so that's a minute worth of work, and then you have your rest period. So it's going to take you longer than a minute, but it's a minute worth of work, 3 times a week. You would have close to the same amount of benefit.
That's insane.
It's insane, right? The issue is you have to be a pretty high-level athlete and mentally pretty strong to go flat out for 20 to 30
So you're saying taking your heart rate up to
supra maximal
max,
levels, right? So, it's something that you and I might do, but somebody that's not used to being pushed that hard, it's kind of unapproachable. So they said, okay, let's make this more practical for everybody and just go to 90%.
Of max
Your max heart rate.
Okay.
Which is doable, but you have to do it for a little bit longer.
And just for anybody watching, can you just talk a little bit about calculating max heart rate? Or should we post something on it?
We'll post some.
Because there is a way to figure out for yourself based on a couple simple, it's a little tiny bit of math.
It's a little technical, so we'll just post the formula.
And then once you get the number, that's your max heart rate, then you're going to go to 90, you're going to take it up to 90%.
Your goal is to get up to 90% of that number and maintain it for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then you get to rest for a minute to 2 minutes. So fully rested. If you don't rest long enough, your second set, so to speak, you won't be able to get as high. And you do that 10 times. So we're talking 20 minutes at 90% of your max, whatever that is.
Now that 20 minutes, that is exclusive of rest time or inclusive?
No, inclusive.
Inclusive of rest time.
It's essentially 10 minutes of work and 10 minutes of rest mixed together. And you got to do that 3 times a week.
And that's going to give you at least what you would have gotten,
if not more. So you will get the cardiovascular benefit as doing that steady state exercise. Plus, you'll probably get a better fat loss benefit as well. Mm-hmm. If you're into strength training and weightlifting, you won't lose muscle by doing steady state exercise too long.
Well, so let me ask you a question. While I have him here, I'm going to interrupt his. So I've been doing high intensity interval training with Robin every morning, typically 12 to 20 minutes, but we do it every day.
Yep.
But my worry was, because I do strength training. So my worry was, will I lose? I'm not too worried about losing muscle mass, as long as and there's an amazing amount of muscle mass under here. I went and had a DEXA scan done and a bunch of that stuff recently. And the guy who looked at me when I came in thought, also, I knew this was going to happen because they put me on the treadmill with the mask. And I tormented them because I kept doing Bane. I was like, when this test is completed. And they didn't appreciate it at all.
Which is unfortunate.
So I asked yes, it was, because that was good material. And when I asked the nurse while I'm waiting for the doctor, like, well, how long, are you on here?
Yeah.
She looked at me and she's like, well, most people your age, which clearly she meant more than age.
Yeah.
She goes, well, the test will last like 5 minutes or so. So I was like, 5 minutes? That just doesn't sound right. So I tore that up, and they were like completely baffled by that performance. And same with the body mass stuff. He goes, it's almost impossible for you to be fat. I don't understand how you maintain this layer of fat, because you have a giant muscle mass that you just burn everything up. And I'm like, well, listen, I got to eat amazing amount. You should see what we brought you for lunch, by the way. I got to eat amazing quantities of processed sugar and potato chips to do it. So Fritos. We had them last week. We had Fritos. You missed it. So if I'm doing this, do I need to do weight training, and should I do weight training before or after? I'll ask you that first before I tell you what I do, because I'm probably doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, so in the last couple weeks ago, Pat and I did an episode together, so we go into this in a lot of detail.
So watch my own show.
You could. Or you could just ask me. But basically, there's this idea of having like a pyramid of exercise priority, right? And the base of that pyramid, so what you should be doing the most of and the most often is just walking, which I know you do a lot.
We do every day, yeah, because we walk.
So like humans we're built to walk, right? My dad used to joke around that bipedal locomotion is the greatest engineering feat of all time, right? So
it really is quite astonishing when you think about it from a design and engineering standpoint.
It really is. Then on top of that would be your strength training, and then on top of that would be this high peak intensity training that I'm talking about.
And so we're not necessarily talking about order, but rather quantity there.
Well, quantity and order.
Good, so I'm doing it the right way.
So you want to do, so for those of you guys that are doing strength training and are thinking about doing this high intensity training that I'm talking about, you want to do your strength training first.
Because I figure my muscles are going to be exhausted from the interval training.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Correct.
So I'm weirdly doing something in the right way.
Always do that right. So then what do you do for the interval training? Sprints on a bike, sprints on the erg. The elliptical is kind of hard to do sprints on. If you can figure it out, you can. And then my personal favorite is kettlebell swings.
What kettlebell? We'll save this for another show. I have all kinds of questions for you. Or I could come to a class at the gym again.
You could.
It's just... All right, so now, getting everything you can out of all you've got. So this is a book by Jay Abraham. It is fantastic. It's 21 ways you can outthink, outperform, and out-earn the competition. But notice, it is taking the resources you already have and getting more and more leverage out of them. So notice, we're sitting here talking about stuff that is of interest to you. By the way, thank you. We've now broken 12,000 views, I think, on one of the shows. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And by the way, if you're on, we're not getting any liking. Is that because Buckley was doing his own show?
No, Greg's on now. We are getting a bunch. Actually.
Oh, there we go. Fantastic. So thank you for that, by the way. But thank you also, and Greg, I don't know if you're doing this, but I wanted to mention it to you because Greg has an awesome show, is make sure to ask people, which I'm going to do now, to share this. So if you have a friend or a family member or somebody that would benefit from the stuff we're talking about, or who is overstressing or doing too much, and you want them to get more juice from the squeeze, then share this on your wall or share it to them by messenger. Invite them to come to the page and like it, and we thank you for that. So, but this book is all about getting more out of what you already have. Yeah. So notice that while we're here, we're doing this live.
Right.
We then post the live. We then set up an archive of all of the stuff we could refer people back to. We're recording it here on another high-quality recording device, which allows us to transcribe it and make a report out of it. We've got certain themes running through this. We might at some point write a book about it. We could just take this audio and do the podcast that we're thinking about doing. Right. So there's lots of ways that we'll use this, and we are also using it. We do research before every show, and so we're using it to inform ourselves about things that you've either told us you're interested in. And by the way, that's one more thing we'll ask you to do, which is if you have anything you want one of our shows to deal with. Oh, by the way, we have an upcoming show at the distillery. They're now ready to do that for us.
Excellent.
So we're going to do a live event. And if you want to get invited to the live event, just send us a comment or message me or Sam or Alex, because there's a limited number of seats there. And I think we might
Do you want
even
to say
buy
where
you.
this is?
Yeah, this is in Phoenixville, right? So that makes sense for local people. This is in Phoenixville at a new, well, not super new distillery. It's been there a few years, but Bluebird Distillery, and we went on a little mission to check it out for everybody, and really high quality stuff. So we're going to be talking about distilled beverages there.
Right.
And they make some wickedly good cocktails too. So we're going to have the guys that are creating it there tell us a little bit about the process and then how to make these cocktails and how to serve them and things when you're entertaining. So we've got that coming up. We have a cooking program coming up. We have a show on less is more coming up. So, you just let us know. But all of these are under the theme of being in top form, making your life better and getting more juice from the squeeze. So that's what this book is just exceptionally good at telling you how to do. It's to find out what you're already doing that's making you successful and find more ways to leverage it and get more out of it. So this week, there were only 3 books, Sam. I'm so proud. The Simple Guide to a Minimalist Life, Zen to Done. If you don't order the books, at least go look at Leo's blog, which is exceptional. And then Jay Abraham, Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. Jay's website also has tons of really amazing free resources. So fantastic stuff. Is Alex, was Alex able to join us?
Seen him on yet.
Because he's always raving about how amazing the internet speeds are in Kansas.
Yeah.
Apparently, like the whole city's 5G, and was the opposite of Hanoi.
Yeah.
So we have some travel shows coming up. So just let us know. We're going to do like an old guy showing you his slides from Vietnam at some point. Yeah,
very cool.
So that is the show for today. I think we covered the agenda. Believe it or not. Do you have any?
Yeah.
More? Oh wait, I'm sorry. There was one more hack I didn't get to. Sorry, we did fitness. We did. Oh, okay. Two hacks. Sorry about that. Weekends and charity. So I just wanted to give you a little hack on charity. For years, even when I was young, my parents taught me like you should be giving back. So even when you're not making a lot of money, you've profited because other people wanted to share their money with you because you gave them a benefit, but you don't get wealthy without them wanting to share with you.
Right.
And so it then becomes kind of your social responsibility to give back. So even when I was young, I did what I could. But when you're giving hundreds or thousands or even $10,000 to a bunch of, or $50,000 to a bunch of charities, you're spreading out your resources.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did was we created a foundation, which I think of as kind of it's not a private foundation, it's what's called a donor advised fund. You can do them with community foundations. So it's kind of like a 401k for charity. You put all your money in, you get a deduction at the time you put it in, and then you grow it, hopefully, and you continue to put more in. And then when bigger projects come along, you could do them. So that was one of the things. And then the other thing was, Moira Muma from Citizens Advocacy was after me for years. You should be an advocate for somebody who really needs help. And I felt like, oh, I'm busy, I'm making money, I'm going to donate the money to charity. And I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It was a terrible mistake. Because she eventually figured out a way, and she was brilliant at this, to get me to become an advocate. And I'm going to tell you this guy's name because he's awesome, Nate Zimmerman. So Nate was 16. He got an IEP back that said he couldn't read, and the school never did anything to get him to read.
Wow.
And I had the most amazing experience, and I still have a relationship with Nate, even though he's moved away. But nothing had been more rewarding to me up until that time from a charitable giving standpoint than doing that. And it's really selfish to, which is okay, to have a selfish charitable motivation. Because you feel so much better when you can have an impact on somebody's life and see that impact. And it doesn't matter when, like as I've done this through the years where I've actually worked directly with people. And it's good for our kids too. Like to take them to places to help people where they see, that people don't have what we sort of just take for granted here. So the charity hack is you could go to an organization like Fidelity and set up one of these donor advised funds, which is like kind of a tiny little private charitable foundation. And I'm not discouraging that, and Schwab and Fidelity, I'm sure, and UBS do a great job of it. But I like the community foundation because, so Chester County has a community foundation, your county or your city, there's the Philadelphia Foundation. Wherever you live, they probably have a foundation near you. that does donor advised funds, where you could just put in $50, $100 a month, $200, $1,000 a month, and you get the deduction now and can make the gift later when you've built up. So that's hack number one. Hack number two is go do something yourself, however small it is, because it's a way of you expressing gratitude for what you've gotten, and you just get an enormous reward back.
And leveraging your talents or skills that you have. So one thing that we do at the gym a lot is we will put on, so-called free workshops, like a free women's self-defense workshop, but then leverage all the attendees and say, hey, make a donation of whatever you're comfortable with, and then that will go to the Domestic Violence Center in Chester County. So, it's more money than maybe we could donate as an individual, but by providing a service, something that people are interested in, they might not necessarily want to enroll in a martial arts course for a year,
right?
But they can take some really useful information from a seminar, and that's not really a profit generator for us, because we want those people that are going to join over the long term.
Right.
So we're not losing any money.
But do you ever get anybody that then eventually comes back and trains?
Of course we do.
So there's this.
So it becomes a marketing tool as well.
Right, but that's not why you do it.
That's not why we do it.
Right. Actually, doing charitable things for the other things you think are going to flow from them, that's a recipe for disaster. Doing them because you want to be helpful and to give back and to express gratitude for all that you're blessed with. Like, if you do it for that reason, it just seems to be that the other thing
happens naturally.
And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Right. And it's all about having the right expectations.
And then one last hack before we go, and that is, so sorry about that false end of the show, because we have like a bunch more doors for you. Weekends. So people were saying, you seem to have the most awesome weekends. I think you do too. And we share one hack, which is that we like to save up our resources and go to really nice places to eat. You do it on Friday nights or Saturday nights?
It depends, just how it
I like to kick it off.
Yeah.
And so like we don't eat, Robin and I don't eat out very much because I'm a pretty good cook and she is a classically trained chef.
Yeah.
So we eat a lot here. But it is true that we will go to a restaurant on a Friday night or a Saturday night to kind of kick things off. And it's also true that we have a routine where we will a lot of times go for Chinese or Indian on Sundays and then go to a movie, depending on which movie theater we're going to.
Nice.
So here's this like really inexpensive thing you do that you dedicate yourself to. So like for me, maintaining weight or losing weight if things spiral out of control, like getting down to where I'm functional again, or strength or fitness, consistency is the magic bullet for me. Like consistently lowering the intake of foods that are bad for me and raising the, like I just got to have a green shake every morning when I'm in that mode. I got to have protein. There's just like, I got to work out. I do something every day just to keep moving. Even if that is, but there are rarely days when it's just the walking. It's usually like I do 15 minutes or something like that rather than something fuller. But consistency for me, in almost everything I do is the magic bullet, including wringing more out of the weekends.
Right.
So like we consistently have a pre-production meeting before this. It may not show, and then we break it down after, or we eat together, which is awesome. And then Robin and I, we just know that we've got to get other stuff done because we're going to go to now there's no movies this weekend that we want to see. So we're just we went for a giant brunch at Le Pan Côte de Dienne. Really like good food, fresh salads, all kinds of stuff. And then we'll just eat an early dinner and watch a movie here.
Nice.
But the thing is there's a pattern and a rise and fall and a dedication to consistently doing things on the weekend. Now, so we set time aside for that. That's the consistent part. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go to a show instead of a movie, or a comedian that's at a theater.
There's consistency. There's a discipline to do
discipline to recreation and packing a lot in.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a discipline to the relaxation part of that too. Like I would love to have a nap every day, and I probably should, because it doesn't take long for me to get like super recharged again.
Right.
But I don't. But on Sundays, I always do, and like my body's used to it, so it doesn't disrupt my sleep. I have a short nap.
Right.
And so weirdly, what looks to other people, this is the Jocko's discipline equals freedom.
Right.
By having it all set out and knowing what we're going to do. Now this doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean in a ridiculously predictive way.
Right.
So it's not like there's no novelty. We may go to dinner and a comedy show. We may go to dinner and a band. But there is...
But it's the discipline and consistency that enables you to have that choice. Because we have this time carved out, we can go to a movie, we can go to a show, we can go out to dinner, or some combination thereof. Whereas if you don't have that consistently, weaved into your weekends, then you're scrambling, oh, we don't have time to do this, where are we going to go, so on and so forth.
And even when we were young and didn't have the money, we did something that I think was very smart. So we'd have like an austerity month where we would not spend money on anything, junky or stupid or silly, that the monkey brain just has you spend money on without thinking about it. We'd be very conscious about that. And we build up the money to do something, maybe it was expensive or maybe it wasn't, but it was the thing we really liked. So you and I both like to go to a restaurant called Alba.
Yes.
And they're grilling fish and steaks and things on an open wood fire, and it's just always good. And so, does that cost us more than if we went to, I don't know if we should disparage a brand or not, but let's. Like Olive Tree. That's a place, right?
I don't think so.
Carrabba?
Yeah, Carrabba.
Okay, Carrabba.
Applebee's.
Yeah, exactly.
So we disparaged 4 places.
We went from should we do it to like just rampantly attacking food chains. So, but we have a totally different experience there. And so we're consciously deciding to spend our resources on that because then we have a phenomenal time. And here's the thing is, I am not, contrary to what most people think, I told Steve Richardson, who's Steve on?
He is on.
Because he will be surprised that I'll admit this publicly because he thought it was like a dirty secret. But I told him the other day, he said, why don't you want to go to our whatever it is, 176th college reunion? He was in the same class with me at Davidson. I said, because I hate it.
Yeah.
And he said, why do you hate it? And I said, because I really am not like a people person.
Right.
Which is hard for people to believe, given that I speak for a living or meet with people multiple times a day. But it's not that. In that context, I'm good. It's just like going to a reunion where now I have to go and it's just like super draining.
Yeah.
This is not a comment on any of my classmates with whom I will spend time.
Yeah.
This is a me thing, not a them thing.
Right.
It's all me. It's not you, sweetie. So, that's exhausting to me. And he thought that, like most people would, that would tell us too, like that's insane because of what I see you do and things like that. But I am very good about choosing then my activities that are recharging to me and draining. So if you and Angela and Robin and I went to Alba, I would have the best time. That would be super recharging. If I had to go to a reunion committee meeting at Alba, that would ruin Alba for me. Right. I mean, I'm not. I could probably describe what the difference is there.
Yeah.
But here's something that I have because I tend to be not outgoing and inviting other people, and I like spending time with Robin, and we don't get enough time together, so I'm sort of selfish for that. But we've gone to Alba together and just had the best time, and I'm getting better about reaching out and scheduling time with friends and people I want to spend more time with. And Dave Wyman and I do a program that you help us out with every year, and so Dave and I went to a restaurant the other day and actually Dave's mom came because it was his birthday.
Oh,
and it was just hilarious. We had a great time. Have you been to that place in Wayne yet? Goat's Beard or whatever it's called?
No.
Oh, it's fantastic. So we'll do that next. So, like, even if it's not in your nature, get outside of that comfort zone a little bit. Like, find your comfort zone, know what recharges you, make use of that. But find ways to expand outside and to share who you are with other people and get the benefits of spending time with them. So that may be brunch on Sundays or something like that. So those are a couple of ways we get more out of our weekends. You work out during the week, probably because of the nature of what you do. Yeah. A lot. So for me, the weekends give me a chance to work out for longer because I tend to do walking and then a little bit of weightlifting, like 5 or 10 minutes, followed by 20 minutes to half an hour of interval training.
Right.
So the weekends give me time to do more of that, and then that makes me physically tired. So I do want that nap too. But it's like a perfect storm of activities. So I guess what all of this boils down to, the ultimate hack, is to be more aware of what really recharges you and what drains you, and be really intentional about experimenting with your weekends, and then finding things, and then creating a pattern. I do think creating a disciplined pattern of doing things that make you smile and entertain you and put you in touch with other people, you know, and to share, you know, I think that's all good. So that really is the end of the show now, which makes perfectly good sense. So we're ending on time. Anybody have any questions that we should deal with before we go? Greg, by the way, thank you. Steve,
we will put the links for the books in the comments and the show notes.
Yes, we will put that in.
And we'll get more information out about the Bluebird event as we're ready for it.
Yes, but do let us know if you want to be on that list.
We need a head count.
People watch this from all over, and this is really for people in sort of southeastern Pennsylvania that want to come, you know, that are within an hour or so. Once again, we'll get these books up. And the way this is going to work in the very near future is all the show notes will be in a blog too, so you'll be able to get that. But if you go back to sometimes when people share, I don't know that the comments that have the notes go with it.
Right.
So just so that you guys know, if you go to In Top Form and look, the show notes will always be there.
Yeah.
So this was awesome, buddy.
Great
Thank
episode.
you. Yeah, great episode. Good to see you. Alex, we'll look forward to seeing you back next week. Let us know if there's anything that we could do for you. Oh, Alex told me we've got our first big sponsor.
Oh, yeah?
We're going to have a giveaway.
Oh, nice.
They provided us with a super cool high-end product that I think everybody's going to like. Oh, I know. I'm trying to line this up. One of the things that we did at Business Black Ops, we went out in the desert to, you know, our house, Robin's and my house, and we did a outdoor program on building a go bag.
Right.
People loved that. So a bunch of people have been asking me who were not at that.
We'll do it
here
on the show. Yeah,
we're going to try to get Buster to come up for it, but if I can't, then we'll just get it on the schedule. But I've been doing a ton of research. Like, I know what I like in mine, but I wanted to look, and so I found a couple of retired clandestine service agents, and I've asked them what's in theirs, and I've got, as you know, a couple of Special Forces operators who are retired now. And so I surveyed 2 clandestine service agents and 2 Special Forces operators to see, like, what's everybody having their go bags.
Yeah,
and so we've got a really good show for you.
Right.
And if we could get Buster on, you know, Buster ran a counterinsurgency op in Iraq back in the day. Yeah. So he's another good one. So that's going to be an exceptionally good show. Yeah. And if you're thinking, by the way, what's a go bag and do I need one? The answer is we will tell you, and yes. Actually, you need 3, probably. One for the house, a light one, and one for the car. And don't worry, we're going to give you a gun and non-gun variation if you want. It's kind of like when you're exercising and they give you the push-ups you can do on your knees. We'll give you the one
like
where,
the modifier.
Yeah, we'll give you the modifier where you just don't care as much about, like, your family.
Right.
So you're not as heavily armed. It's not a judgment. Listen, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you next Sunday. Remember to share this with anybody that you think needs it, and have a great one. Peace.